Hi, I am Michaelangelo and today we're going to discuss about the famous Renaissance painters dated from the 14th to 17th century. The Renaissance was a period in the history of Europe which saw the great cultural development. The word Renaissance means rebirth, and the period is named so because it was marked by renewed interest in the ancient Greco-Roman culture. It started in Italy and spread across Europe, leading to great changes in varied fields, which would have a profound and long-lasting effects on Western civilizations. Who is Leonardo da Vinci and his work? Leonardo da Vinci, he was the ideal Renaissance, the great universal genius, who among other things was a painter, mathematician, engineer, architect, botanist, sculptor, and anatomist. His detailed knowledge of anatomy, light, botany, and geology helped him in creating some of the most renowned masterpieces in the history. Today, he is known as the ideal Renaissance man and the genius behind the widely considered the most expensive painting in the world, and one of his famous paintings, portrait paintings. This is the Mona Lisa. Other famous works of him include the Last Supper, the most reproduced religious painting, and the Vitruvian Man, one of the most reproduced artistic images. Who is Michaelangelo and his work? Michaelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni was a Renaissance man, or universal genius, who excelled in various fields including painting, architecture, poetry, and engineering. Michelangelo is perhaps the most influential figure in the history of Western art, whose works in painting, sculpture, architecture have exerted unparalleled influence on the development of arts in the West. His frescoes on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel and the Last Judgment on its altar wall guarantee him a place among the greatest painters in the history. Who is Raphael and his works? The famous painter in the Renaissance period is Raphael. The High Renaissance is a term used to denote the apex of the visual arts in the Italian Renaissance. Raffaello Sancho da Urbino, along with Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, forms the trinity of the great masters of the High Renaissance. Raphael is the most popular painter during the Renaissance and even till late 19th century. His works were revered more than any other artist, and he was regarded as the best model for history painting. Raphael is still considered among the greatest artists in history. He is more than anyone else. He was a master in realistically depicting emotion, which brought his paintings to life. Many of his paintings, including his masterpiece, The School of Athens, are considered cornerstones of the Renaissance art. And other famous artworks of him is the Sistine Madonna, 1512, and Transfiguration in 1520. Who is Sandro Botticelli and his work? Botticelli was perhaps the greatest humanist painter of the early Renaissance. He painted a wide range of mythological and religious subjects, and also few portraits. Botticelli aimed to capture beauty and virtue through his works. The goddess Venus, who represents these qualities, appears of many of his best-known works. The art of Botticelli is known for its visual brilliance and decorative quality that is not found in the paintings of succeeding Renaissance artists. His paintings, the famous paintings of the Renaissance, are The Birth of Venus and Primavera. Who is Giotto and his work? Giotto was the important Italian painter of the 14th century, a period which falls under the early Renaissance. Giotto revolutionized Western art to the point that he has been revered as the father of European painting for almost 7 centuries. The first of the great painters of the Renaissance, Giotto initiated the decisive break with the prevalent Byzantine style and instead reintroduced the technique of drawing accurately from life, which had been neglected for more than 200 years. The paintings of Giotto are known for being the first to masterfully capture the gesture, face, sorrows, and joy of human beings and for being faithful to nature. His fresco cycle on the Scrovegni Chapel is regarded as a supreme achievement of the Renaissance and one of the most important masterpieces in the Western art. The masterpiece of Giotto is the Kiss of Judas, and other famous works of him is the Ognissanti Madonna and Lamentation, the Mourning of Christ. Who is Hieronymus Bosch and his work? Hieronymus Bosch was the first artist to depict innovative creatures and realms which are incomprehensible to humans. He once said, "Poor is the mind that always uses the inventions of others and invents nothing itself." His art is renowned for containing acoustic humans, animals, monsters, and fantastical creatures unknown to humans. The most acclaimed painting of Bosch often depict a detailed and symbolic rendition of heaven and hell through biblical themed landscapes. Hieronymus Bosch is regarded as one of the first visionary geniuses of the art world and as a hugely individualistic painter with deep insight into humanity desires and deepest fears. One of his masterpieces is the Garden of Earthly Delights, and the other works of him, famous work of him, is the Howling Trips and the Last Judgment. Who is Titian and his work? Titian was the most important painter of the 16th century in Venetian school. He was a versatile painter, adapted portrait, landscape background, and mythological and religious subjects. Titian used of color and painting methods, particularly his emphasis on the touches of the brush and even sometimes of fingertips, exercised profound influences not only on painters of the late Italian Renaissance but on the future generations of the Western art. He also known for transforming the history of arts and patronage, enabling king and prince of the church to commission sexual seductions as readily as crucifixions. Titian was hailed by his contemporaries as the sun amidst small stars. He is today regarded by the art critic as one of the greatest painters of all time. One of his masterpieces is the Venus of Orbino, and other famous works are the Assumptions of Virgin and Bacchus and Ariadne. Who is Tintorito and his work? Tintorito was one of the 3 Venetian giants during the Renaissance. During the Renaissance, artists in Italy developed perspective to create an illusion of 3-dimensional space. Tintorito switched this technique to its limits by using long and vast perspectives. Tintorito's style was innovative and dramatic, and he had fervor for colossal works. His art is known for the radical nature, flamboyance, and modernity. Tintorito was a highly individualistic painter whose technique and vision evolved through his career. His experiments with the light and space led to him achieving a luminous visionary quality in his later works. Tintorito is regarded as one of the most important artists of the late Renaissance. His masterpiece is The Last Supper, and the other works of Tintorito is the Crucifixion and the Saint Mark body brought to Venice.